Every evening, millions of people walk through their front door, drop their bags, sit down, and slowly give up on the life they say they want. Not in one dramatic moment, but quietly, one episode, one scroll, one "I'll start tomorrow." And the tragedy is this: most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they never decided what their evenings are for. Let me tell you something uncomfortable, but important. Your job does not define your future. Your evenings do. Because the hours after work are the only hours that truly belong to you. No boss, no meetings, no deadlines, just choices. And every choice is a vote for the person you're becoming. Most people believe their future is decided between 9 and 5. They think promotions, salaries, and titles are the things that determine where their life will end up. But that belief is comforting and incomplete, because the most important hours of your day are not the ones you sell to someone else. They are the ones you keep for yourself. Evenings are where direction is formed. After work, no one is telling you what to do. No one is measuring your output. No one is watching. And that is exactly why those hours matter so much. When there is no pressure, no reward, and no applause, your choices reveal what you truly value. Most evenings disappear without resistance. A screen turns on, a phone lights up, time slips away quietly, and nothing feels wrong in the moment. But over weeks and months, those quiet decisions begin to shape identity, not dramatically, gradually. You don't wake up one day far from your goals. You drift there evening by evening. The future is built in small, uncelebrated moments. Reading instead of scrolling, thinking instead of numbing, creating instead of consuming. These actions rarely feel urgent, which is why they are easy to ignore. Yet they are the exact behaviors that separate people who grow from people who stay stuck. Evenings are not meant to be packed with intensity. They are meant to be intentional. There is a difference. Intensity burns out. Intention compounds. When you approach your evenings with clarity, knowing why you are doing what you are doing, you stop chasing motivation and start building alignment. What you do consistently after work sends a message to your brain about who you are. If every evening is about escape, your identity becomes someone who avoids discomfort. If your evenings include learning, reflection, or practice, your identity becomes someone who prepares for tomorrow. Identity is not claimed, it is practiced. Many people say they don't have time, but evenings prove otherwise. Time exists. Direction is what's missing. Without direction, time turns into distraction. With direction, even a single hour becomes powerful. 1 hour a day invested intentionally becomes hundreds of hours a year, and hundreds of hours change trajectories. Evenings also shape confidence. When you keep promises to yourself after work, you build trust with yourself. That trust becomes self-respect. And self-respect changes how you show up everywhere else in life. Confidence does not come from achievements alone. It comes from knowing you do what you said you would do, even when no one is watching. The uncomfortable truth is this: no one is coming to save your evenings. No system, no manager, no opportunity will suddenly give them meaning. Meaning has to be chosen. And once it is chosen, everything else begins to align around it. Autopilot is not laziness. It is what happens when life becomes familiar enough that you stop questioning it. You wake up, go to work, come home, distract yourself, sleep, and repeat. Nothing feels wrong, but nothing feels deeply right either. That is the danger of autopilot. It feels safe while slowly pulling you away from intention. When people say they feel stuck, what they usually mean is that their days look the same and their thinking has stopped evolving. Autopilot removes friction. And without friction, there is no growth. Growth requires moments of pause, moments where you ask, why am I doing this way? Autopilot avoids those questions because they are uncomfortable. Evenings are where autopilot becomes most visible. You don't choose what you do, you default to it. The couch, the phone, the familiar routine, these behaviors are not bad. They are just unexamined. And unexamined habits quietly become a lifestyle. Over time, you stop remembering why you started wanting more in the first place. Autopilot is efficient, But efficiency without purpose leads nowhere. You can be incredibly efficient at repeating the same year of your life over and over again. Familiar routines create a sense of control, but they also create stagnation. Comfort is not the enemy. Comfort without awareness is. The hardest part about turning off autopilot is not the effort, it is the awareness. Awareness requires you to notice how you feel when the distractions end. Silence reveals dissatisfaction. Stillness exposes unmet potential. That is why autopilot fills every gap with noise. Because if you stop, you might realize you were meant for more. Living intentionally does not mean changing everything at once. It means interrupting the pattern. One conscious choice is enough to break the cycle, choosing to read instead of scroll, choosing to reflect instead of escape, choosing to prepare instead of procrastinate. These small interruptions remind you that you are in control. Autopilot convinces you that motivation will come later. Intention proves that action comes first. When you act with purpose, motivation follows. Waiting to feel ready keeps you stuck in the same loop. Readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. The most fulfilled people are not the busiest or the most disciplined, they are the most present. Presence pulls you out of autopilot, it reconnects you with your values. When you act in alignment with those values, even simple evenings begin to feel meaningful. Breaking autopilot means accepting temporary discomfort. It means sitting with boredom long enough to discover curiosity again. It means choosing growth over ease, not because it feels good, but because it feels true. When you live with intention, your days stop blending together and your life starts to feel like it is moving forward instead of simply happening. Most people believe energy is something you either have or you don't. They treat it like a limited resource that gets used up by work, stress, and responsibility. So when the evening arrives and they feel drained, they assume the decision has already been made for them. But energy does not disappear on its own. It responds to meaning. When you are doing something that matters to you, fatigue changes its shape. The body may still be tired, but the mind becomes alert. That is why people can work all day and still find energy for the things they care deeply about. Energy is not created by rest alone. It is created by purpose. Saying "I'm too tired" often sounds logical, but it hides a deeper truth. What most people are really saying is, "This doesn't matter enough to me." And that realization can be uncomfortable because it forces a question that cannot be ignored. If the things you say you want never receive your best energy, how important are they really? Evenings reveal this clearly. You may feel exhausted, yet somehow find energy to scroll for hours, watch multiple episodes, or engage in endless conversations online. That energy was always there. It was simply directed toward comfort instead of growth. Energy follows interest, always. Choosing where your energy goes is an act of leadership over your own life. Leaders don't wait to feel energized before they act. They act in alignment with purpose, and energy rises to meet the decision. This does not mean pushing yourself to exhaustion. It means being honest about where your attention is going. Low energy is often a symptom of low engagement. When life becomes repetitive and uninspiring, the mind checks out, the body follows. Introducing challenge, learning, or progress reawakens energy. Growth creates momentum. Momentum creates energy. This is why small, intentional actions matter so much in the evening. 10 minutes of focused effort can shift your entire state. Reading a few pages, writing a single idea, practicing a skill, or planning tomorrow gives your brain a signal that you are moving forward. Progress is energizing. Energy also increases when you stop negotiating with yourself. Every internal debate drains more energy than the action itself. Deciding once and acting consistently reduces mental fatigue. Structure frees energy. Clarity restores it. The moment you stop treating energy as an excuse, responsibility returns. Responsibility can feel heavy at first, but it is also empowering. It reminds you that you have more influence over your life than you think. You may not control how tired you feel, but you control what you choose to do next. When your actions align with your values, energy stops being something you wait for and becomes something you generate through meaning, intention, and direction. People often wait for big changes to feel ready to act. A new job, a new year, a new surge of motivation. But meaningful transformation rarely starts with dramatic decisions. It starts with small behaviors repeated quietly. especially in the evenings when no one is watching and no one is rewarding the effort. Evening habits are powerful because they are low pressure. There is no urgency forcing you to act. That makes them honest. What you choose to do in these hours reflects who you are becoming, not who you are trying to impress. Small actions done consistently after work shape identity long before they show results. Most people underestimate compounding. They believe that if an action does not feel significant today, it won't matter tomorrow. But habits do not work on a daily scale. They work on a timeline. One page read each night becomes dozens of books. One idea written becomes a skill. One small effort repeated becomes a reputation with yourself. The mistake is thinking that change requires intensity. Intensity is fragile. It depends on mood, energy, and motivation. Habits are stable. They survive bad days, busy days, and low energy days. When you design small evening habits, you remove the need to feel inspired. You make progress inevitable. Evenings are especially important because they close the loop of the day. They influence how you sleep, how you wake up, and how you approach the next morning. A chaotic evening leads to a rushed morning. An intentional evening creates clarity. That clarity carries forward. Small habits also reduce resistance. Starting is often the hardest part. When the habit is tiny, the brain doesn't push back. 5 minutes feels manageable. One task feels safe. Once you begin, momentum often follows. Action precedes motivation more often than the other way around. These habits don't need to be impressive, they need to be aligned. Alignment means the habit supports the future you want, not the comfort you crave. Stretching instead of collapsing, planning instead of reacting, learning instead of escaping. These choices may feel insignificant in isolation, but together they reshape direction. Consistency builds trust. Each time you show up for a small habit, you reinforce the belief that you can rely on yourself. That belief strengthens confidence. Confidence changes how you approach challenges. Challenges then become opportunities instead of threats. The biggest life shifts rarely announce themselves. They happen quietly in the background, while life looks ordinary on the surface. Evening habits are invisible to others, but they are deeply visible to you. Over time, they change how you think, how you decide, and how you see what is possible. The way you end your day matters more than most people realize. It is the final message your mind receives before rest, and that message lingers longer than the noise that came before it. When evenings end in distraction, the mind stays scattered. When evenings end in meaning, the mind finds order. Distraction is not the same as rest. Distraction numbs, rest restores. Many people confuse the two because distraction is easier. It asks nothing from you. It fills the space so you don't have to feel or think. But when distraction becomes the default ending to every day, it trains the brain to avoid reflection and growth. Ending your day with meaning does not require grand gestures. It requires presence, a moment of awareness, a deliberate choice to engage instead of escape. Meaning can be found in reflection, learning, connection, or preparation. What matters is that the action aligns with who you want to become. The mind seeks closure. When the day ends without intention, thoughts carry over into the night. Anxiety lingers. Sleep becomes restless. A meaningful ending signals completion. It tells your brain that the day had purpose, even if it was imperfect. Distraction keeps you busy, but meaning makes you feel whole. Busy evenings can still feel empty. Meaningful evenings can feel full, even when they are quiet. This fullness comes from alignment, not entertainment. Reflection is one of the most powerful ways to end the day. Asking what went well, what was learned, or what could improve creates growth without pressure. It shifts focus from judgment to awareness. Awareness builds wisdom. Preparation is another form of meaning. Planning tomorrow, setting priorities, or organizing your thoughts reduces friction in the morning. It replaces chaos with clarity. Clarity reduces stress. Stress drains energy. Connection also brings meaning. A real conversation, undivided attention, presence with someone you care about. These moments remind you that success is not only about progress, but about relationships. Ending the day with meaning strengthens self-respect. It shows that your time matters, even at the end of a long day. It reinforces the belief that your life is not just something that happens to you, but something you participate in. Over time, meaningful endings change your internal narrative. You stop measuring days only by productivity or exhaustion. You begin measuring them by growth and alignment. When each day closes with intention, life stops feeling rushed and starts feeling directed. Your evenings are not empty time. They are the training ground for your future. You don't need a new job. You don't need perfect motivation. You need a decision. Decide that your evenings matter, and everything else will follow.